Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Yeah, good. I think we never had a call before this.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I'm actually finishing issue with steps to
Oh,
take. I think we need to wait a little bit, and plus I will ping people because, as I understand, there is like uh, changes in to winter time from
oh.
summertime to winter time, and it's everywhere except like US and Australia or something like that. So
I think it's next week for us.
yeah, it's happened already in Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
So and we have like that's why it's like 1 hour earlier
Oh,
than
okay. The
probably
usual time.
everybody. Yeah, like I will ping people.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's a UTC, as I understand UTC, it's like, uh, hi Camille.
Ivan,
Hi.
Yeah,
Uri, I guess won't join today, so it's just me from the guild.
okay.
Yeah, he's on the another meeting. I mean, yeah, I think so. It's in progress right now.
Okay, yeah, by the way, like since we're small group and if situation like that happening in future, and if
Yeah.
you have something important to discuss, it's okay, we can move it. It's like, since we're small group, it's still possible. Uh, yeah.
Mm, yeah, I mean, wait, I'm just checking what was happening
Mhm.
last time. I see that we have the differ and stream right merged into master. I'm not
Not
master, but the feature branch.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. I think let's wait like 5 more minutes
Mhm.
um, in case if somebody wants to join in. I think like, yeah, since Uri or Dota not also joining, not joining, don't know.
No, no, it's just me.
It's just you. Okay.
Yeah.
So and by the way, we have a recording, and previous one is already on YouTube. So if I think like we can start from introduction, and I forget to add myself, but I'm Ivan. I'm from Ukraine, and I maintain GraphQL.js, and hopefully it will be more people in future to share with, work with. So Uri is not here. I think it's you. By the way, how to pronounce your name?
Oh,
It's
hi. My name is Sahaj.
Sahej.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Sorry for interrupting your introduction. You can tell a
Oh,
couple. Yeah, like on every working group, we introduce ourselves
okay.
and tell like some basic stuff. Why you here and what's your motivation, like or what you represent.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Sahaj and I am new to contributing to GraphQL. I just found it over the summer. I found it interesting, so I'm just here helping out.
I think it's Rob, you next in the list.
Yeah, Rob, I work for First Dibs in New York and been working on Defer and Stream.
Ready to send it?
I think, Camille, you're the next on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Camille. I work with the Guild. We do pretty much GraphQL and open source all around it. So yeah.
Hey folks, I have to add myself to the list here. I'm gonna submit a PR right now, but I'm Mike Marcacci. I'm mostly here to talk about TypeScript conversion of the GraphQL.js library, and some particular goals I have for that. So.
Yeah, another question for agenda. It's yeah. By the way, we're recording, so everything is uploaded to YouTube, and like if you joined, you kind of agree with recording. If you not agree, we can discuss it. And second thing is there is some links in agenda. So if you didn't sign code of conduct, participation guide, and specification membership agreement, I encourage you to sign it. And actually in future, it will be automatically checked by bot. So like you need to sign it anyway at some point to contribute to foundation projects, and it's pure formality. And you can sign it as an individual. Yeah, like about
Vaughn, is that it's the same one as for the GraphQL spec working group, right? Oh, perfect, great.
Yeah, it's the same, exactly the same. I think it's like universal through foundation projects. I think it's a couple of different ones. So code of conduct, I think you also need to sign it. I did it a year ago, so I already forget like how many documents you need to sign and how they look like. About note taking, does anybody volunteers to do note taking? I think it's less important since we have a video, and I don't expect this code to be very long. But if somebody, I don't know how to create.
I could do notes, let's say tomorrow, based on the recording.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds great. Thanks a lot. And by the way, like big thanks to Uri for creating a repo and doing this work, like agendas and README and like entire repo structure. I think it's the second repo, working group repo after spec repo. So it's like, it's a cool that this group has become like more proper working group with agendas and notes and other stuff and action items. So I think next item is action items. Right. Review agenda. Yeah, review agenda. So right now we have async iteratable and only async iteratable in different stream. And I will check if there is no other pairs. Anybody wants to add some other topics to agenda? And yeah, Mike, you want to add?
Yeah, I'm adding that in right now. Just I'll do that for the end. Just a TypeScript game plan.
Yeah, TypeScript. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually missing action items on my part, and so I will share my screen and we will go through action items. Yeah, so. Yeah, so you see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go to agenda items, create for action item, all action items. It's done because repo is like created. So it said and review and calls during working group meetings. So we'll do it right now. So it says done. Second, yeah, wait. I actually miss bunch of action items, including this one. I need to assign myself on it. And about service level agreement, I think we can have quick discussion on it. How about issues being answered like in less than 2 days, 2 like working days, like meaning you create PR and I try to triage or answer or something in the issue in basically 48 hours, if nothing, and we'll try to maintain the same schedule. Yeah, so to explain previous discussion, it's about like some measurement of time, not to merging, but just to responding to stuff. So next, yeah, it's also for me, and I'm in the process of actually writing it. And we can discuss if we have time, we can discuss it. I have some points on it, but I didn't finish it yet. It's something to be reviewed. I think I contacted Marcelo and I sent him an invitation. I will check on it. Check. Yeah, so I sent him an invitation and to check it. Schedule working group. Yeah, this is done because we on this call right now, so it's done. And contribution guide is not done. It's my fault. I didn't finish it. To be honest, I didn't start it yet. I have an issue with some ideas what to add to contribution guide, but I didn't create it as a document. About cleanup maintainers list, I actually did some research and foundation. Yeah. And find out that it's not maintainers, it's not like we have 60 maintainers to GraphQL.js. We have 60 maintainers or something like 50, 60 people in GraphQL organization on GitHub. So I need to contact. Yeah, I also need to do it. I think it's on recording, our discussion, but we stopped on recording, but it's not written anywhere. So, and by the way, sorry about that. I just had a call, unexpected call. I wanted to answer and finish with before, but yeah, but I had a call previous. So returning back to agenda, next item is, I will stop sharing, is about stream and defer, and when we can discuss plan for TypeScript conversion and current progress. Yeah. Like just update about stream and defer on my part. So what I did today is a couple of days ago, I released a new version of GraphQL.js, and today and waited a couple of days to see that it's working, and except one bug report, it's look like 15.4.0 didn't break anything. So I released stream and defer today. I released stream and defer feature release on top of it and merge stream and defer into branch. So yeah. This item, Rob, do you want to continue with what we need to done?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing is the PR for async intervals in resolvers. There's no breaking changes there. It's a new feature. It's very useful for stream, but it's kind of a standalone feature. So I guess what are the next steps for that? Is that something that could go in GraphQL 15, or do we want to? It's in the experimental branch that you published, but yeah. So I guess what are the next steps for that?
So to clarify, basically first I started drafting a plan for TypeScript migration, and first point was to release 15.4.0, basically to clean up, to release everything that we have on master right now. And after that, at some point we need to do feature freeze, and we will try to do it as fast as possible and migrate all the stuff. So hopefully this release of feature npm package is unblock you in getting feedback. I agree that async iteratable is not breaking change, and that's why it's actually can be added after we do TypeScript conversion. It can be either like before 15.0.0 release or as 16.1.0. It's like depending on timeline. So basic idea is to do breaking changes, do migration on TypeScript, and we can merge async iteratable in parallel with squashing like final migration bugs. But right now, like it's pretty big change, and at some point, like we just need to stop what we're doing and just finish TypeScript migration. There is a lot of preparation work done, and I actually like prolong it for a long time to merge like some stuff like deprecation and some other proposal for specification pairs. But I feel like right now, async iteratable is only one hot topic that we need, so we can kind of, and based on current current time, and Sahid helping with TypeScript migration. I think like we can migrate most of the code in the weeks, not months. So idea is to just feature freeze for a couple weeks, finish TypeScript migration, and async iteratable. Let's agree that async iteratable would be first feature in pipeline. Yeah. So.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll just see if we get any feedback from the experimental branch while you guys are working on the TypeScript migration.
Yeah, so since our goal is to get feedback, I feel like a milestone for us would be to share like example project on how StreamND4 working or like some. So if you interested, we can like figure out what we need to create example project, or if you're interested writing blog article, blog post, something like that. So for people actually try this feature, I think we can. So like idea is to do the same feature release for Express GraphQL server.
Mm-hmm.
And since Relay, I think like Relay is already support StreamND4 in compatible way, or is it incompatible? Do you know?
Sorry, what did you say? Relay?
Yeah. Can we use Relay as it's compatible? Okay.
It's mostly compatible. I have a PR to Relay, but they had kind of said they wanted to wait for it to be merged first. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg, but I'll ping them again and see if they can get that change merged in. But
yeah. So.
But yeah, we are using it in production, my branch with Relay.
So I think like a good goal to work in parallel, not to waste this time for TypeScript migration, is that we can create sample project. By the way, if you want it to be a foundation repo, I can ask. I don't think it would be any problem. We can just create a repo under foundation for StreamND, for example, and I can give you a commit right, and you can create like simple server and simple like front-end demo if it's something that you're interested in, like for people like to try.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that somebody else might have just set that up. I'm just looking in my emails and I saw someone commented on the Express GraphQL PR that they have some kind of like playground repo.
Yeah, great. It's actually, yeah. And
this is all talking about PR 2757, right? The support for async iterables. I know that there had been a couple like stabs at this.
No, there is like, it's actually timeline is a little bit different. So main feature is StreamND4.
Okay.
But problem with, sorry, because like I'm in context, so I forget I need to explain like a context. Plus, yeah, we are on YouTube, so it's important for people to understand what we're actually discussing. So idea is that there is a spec proposal for StreamND4, and on working group, everybody like agree with current proposal. What we're not sure is it like fit all the main use cases, and basically we want to get feedback. So it's frozen on the spec side. Basically, like Lee and like entire working group agreed that right now we need to collect feedback, and to collect feedback we need to release something. But at the same time, we don't want for people to be dependent on something that is not standard yet. So that's why it lived for a long time as a PR. that Rob and Lilian created together and maintained it and rebased it. Big thanks for all this effort of rebasing it. It's a lot of work, not only like writing it, but constantly rebasing it. So, and part of this PR have two parts. One is actually add stream and defer, and another part is changing internal mechanism of execute function to support async iteratables. So that's why Rob split it up in a separate PR. And
Got it. Okay.
merging async iteratable is not broken by spec changes, so we can merge it right now. Issue here is that it's affect performance potentially, and it's affect like bunch of, basically we didn't change execute for a long time, execute function measure way for a long time, and there is nothing bad with it. We actually need to do it. It's just like we need to review it super careful and to be sure that we don't have memory leaks. And Rob like, did a great job. He created like benchmark for it, and there is some changes to benchmark. So I think iteratable PR is a purely like review effort and like figuring out if every corner case is covered.
Cool.
Or
That makes
not.
sense.
Yeah, and for stream and defer, it's it will live for some time as a feature branch. At least a feature branch will work for us if it's not like maintaining nightmare. If it's maintaining nightmare, we can try some different approach. But basically, right now we want to add something for people to use. And say
support is already that's already part of master, right?
no.
No.
So yeah. So previous approach was to create basically copy of execute or flag to execute enabling is as experimental feature. But and Rob actually spent time implementing that. But when I review PR, it's there is some changes that we cannot add under experimental flag, like changes to typings, because execute return async iteratable for stream and defer purpose, because you don't get in one response, you get in multiple. That's why we discussed with Rob and I suggested that we try feature branch approach, because we'll keep different flags to a minimum. And since GraphQL.js is peer dependency, so we're already paying a price for having GraphQL as a peer dependency, and you experience every time that we release new breaking version, because entire ecosystem should update. But at the same time, I have positive thing that you can just replace GraphQL 15.4.0 with 15.4.0 experimental stream and defer, and everything should work as is. So without like updating dependency and bunch of other packages.
Totally.
Yeah, so we try this approach, and if it's work, we will continue to do that. If it's not work, we can try something else. Even like return back to like feature flag idea, but idea right now is to try this like experimental releases.
Cool.
And by the way, we can try it for other features, not only stream and defer. Any big feature that we want to collect feedback on, and we can add to master, because we like design is not finalized. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, I think the challenge is always going to be finding where to put the feature freeze, right? Because like if we freeze it before this, we have to then separately convert all of this to TypeScript. But if we freeze it after, then we're just waiting more, which will, we could continue to do forever.
yeah, and Yeah, before switching to TypeScript and discussing
Yeah, exactly.
strategy, yeah. Rob,
Yeah.
do you want to discuss any other things about stream and defer?
No, I don't think so. So I'll keep this PR up to date, or I'll have to I'll have a local branch where I keep it up to date as the TypeScript changes emerged, and then I'll need you to force push it to the feature branch on GraphQL.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take a look at that example repo, and maybe I'll make another one too if we need it, or we could use that. And otherwise, I guess just let me know if there's anything else that I could do to keep things moving.
Yeah, by the way, it's like this group is not only about GraphQL.js. As Uri, when Uri created a repo, he did cool thing. He actually write it's about GraphQL in JavaScript in general. So it's connected to other projects. So I can help you with releasing Express version, and if you need any other help, yeah, we can ping or discuss it. I cannot help you with relay because it's still in Facebook. But
Yeah.
with everything else, if you need like to have more visibility, we can tweet it from Foundation Twitter account or do anything else. Plus, we have a blog, Foundation blog. If you're interested, I can send you a link, and we can have like some small article just saying we collecting feedback about this feature. Think like that, both like technical and public relation. Because I like signed contract with Foundation, and I'm in contact with some guys. So it's actually my responsibility. Community management is my responsibility. It's part-time job, but so feel free to ping me about that, and I can help you with different aspects of this feature. So
yeah, so as far as that, Express GraphQL is ready to be published the same way that GraphQL.js was. For everything else, I think Ricky is working on supporting graphical, and yeah, I'll draft up a blog post. If I think that would be good to get more people aware that this branch is there and they can try it out now.
sounds great. Clarification about Express GraphQL. I want to do the same as GraphQL.js. So I want to create like a new release, do some small fixes, update dependencies, and release from master. And I will merge your PR into branch first, and I will do rebase myself, because it's easier when person who make the changes to rebase. By the way, we can try to figure out some approach of making rebase easier. We can communicate in Slack and figure out what to do. I can give you commit rights to repos for you to, because I'm not sure you can rebase with PRs. So we can figure out something, how to make your life easier. Just ping me.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, so switching back to a plan. Yeah, it's not finished yet, but it's something. So about TypeScript. I think like we need to define it in scope of 16.0.0 release, because Dotan actually did experimental PR on converting tests, and problem with it was that our current DTS typing is not correct, and we support very old version of TypeScript, and we cannot change typings without breaking change. So we can convert some parts to TypeScript on master, but I feel like having a new release is faster and cleaner, and we can remove some stuff. So, and on the other hand, every time releasing new major version is big stress for ecosystem. Because you need to update peer dependency everywhere. So I feel like we need to use this opportunity to do some other things. Like since we have a feature freeze, we can switch main branch from master to main. Since like all the projects doing that, and we do feature freeze anyway, and we break people in PRs in major way anyway. So not to do it twice, we can do it at the same time. Support ESM, it's the same type of issue. I tried to do it on the master, and right now we have 4 files. For every JavaScript file we generate, we have like 4 different outputs: DTS, flow, JS, and MJS. And
Oh,
like,
is
so
that a goal to support here? The MJS like module exports.
So right now we have MJS, but there is some like, so it works with Webpack and it works with like some bundlers, but it's not working with recent releases of Node JS.
That
So
whole story is quite a thing.
yeah, and as part of this effort, we can try some approach to instance of like people periodically, a lot of people have problems with instance of. I personally have like so like idea is that it's like yeah, so let's not go into details. I spent last week I spent like a day if trying to do it on right now without breaking change, and I don't think it's possible, but the risk that we break somebody is big, and if person and person reported in like a week and we stuck in TypeScript conversion, technically we can use a tag and release new version, but it's problematic. So yeah, and another thing is to remove flow specific workarounds. We have a bunch of them. Yeah, every technology comes with its own limitations and its own set of workarounds. So idea is to remove flow before or in parallel with introducing TypeScript specific ones, because with project this big we'll hit some limitation of TypeScript, but we need to remove flow specific things. And yeah.
A question about that. I know originally the goal was to continue to export flow definitions. I assume that's still a goal here, correct?
So what we learned from so Sahid created a TypeScript PR, and I basically suggest him a migration plan, and he executed on it. And so current concept is to move TypeScript file or JS files to TypeScript, not to lose commit history or blame. I feel like blame is most important thing. Like on open source project with big and with long history. So we automatically lose flow typings.
Yeah.
But idea is that we separate all the breaking changes and do them before TypeScript migration. So after TypeScript migration, we can try two approaches. There is some projects for automatically converting DTS files to flow typings, or we can.
Yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah, or we can return back to pre-TypeScript version and extract flow typings manually.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so ideally, it's on set of problems because like I spoke with the people from other communities, from Python communities and from other languages who wanted to contribute to reference implementation, especially stuff that they learn in their own implementation. And they said that flow typings was a barrier for them to contribute because flow have a steep learning curve and it's hard to find resources on the internet about it. So
Yeah.
ideally,
Do you
yeah,
happen to know who the is it just generally that we want to continue to provide support for Flow, or like does Facebook specifically need it, or does
yeah.
other projects?
So funny part of Facebook actually also need the TypeScript typings.
Huh.
For GraphQL, they use TypeScript at some projects. A year ago, as you probably know, like, yeah, actually, more than a year ago, I think a year and 1 month or something, we decided to migrate to TypeScript. And we discussed it with Facebook guys. An agreement was that we support for some time.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we still need it or not, but I feel like right now we need to migrate to TypeScript anyway. And after migrating, we can try, if it's easy if we, for example, can use automatic tool for converting, and it's low effort. We don't need to start with discussion. If it's complicated and error prone, we can start discussion. Do we really need flow typings, and can it be like maybe separate repo with people contributing from flow community who actually use it, contributing there? Yeah. Plus,
I'll create an issue just so that we can gather people's
oh yeah,
yeah,
sounds good.
Because if it turns out that nobody at Facebook and not many people in the community need flow types, it'd be nice to get rid of them as part of this breaking change, so we don't have to do it as a part of another breaking change.
Yeah, it's idea. So I'm worried. My main concern is that if person contributing, I don't want to force person to contribute to flow typings manually.
Yes.
Update them because it will also be barrier for contribution. And yeah, and on the other hand, I don't want like maintainers to be responsible for updating flow types for everybody, or like to block releases until flow types are updated. So I don't think it will work. So yeah, starting discussion I think is good. I don't think we can measure it somehow if somebody depend on flow or not. We idea is that we will release some version with some like pre-release version, probably beta or alpha, when we finish TypeScript conversion without flow typings. And it will also give us some feedback how people do people really need flow typing. But anyway, even if we decide not to support it, I think we need to try to make life easier for people who need it. So we need to two steps here is to separate breaking changes from TypeScript conversion and to do breaking changes before, at least like breaking changes that we anticipate to do it before TypeScript conversion. So when a person trying something, they can, yeah, before going too deep, like, yeah, sorry about that.
Perfect.
Return back to goals. Like, does anybody have some feel like it's list of goals is enough, or we need to add something or remove something?
I might make it explicit that that one of the goals is just correct typing, because it's not just converting the existing like definition types from definitions to like actual like TypeScript types in the code base, but like actually fixing them because they're kind of broken at the moment.
Yeah, like so broken in a way that is incorrect, or in a way that it's missing some features?
Both. Broken in one sense, like type, for example, if you have, let me think about it. Okay, if you have like arguments that are defined on different fields, TypeScript will infer that the arguments between every field are the same, unless you explicitly specify them in your function, like like each field's resolvers. If you just provide an untyped like function and rely on inference, and you use another related to that is if you do type them, actually, if you do type arguments, it I think, at least in the most recent version of TypeScript, is failing because arguments are defined as like a object with keyed by string and like unknown values or something, and so you can't like destructure directly within the like function arguments. There's definitely like several pieces that are like actually like a little broken, but then beyond that, there's just a greatly reduced amount of kind of like specificity that you can get, right? Like a scalar is just a scalar, and we don't really have any concept of a string scalar versus a number scalar versus what those like actually resolve to, if I'm correct, in terms of like your return types. And so make like adding generics in a lot of places is also necessary. I mean, these are all the things that are breaking changes from the type definition standpoint. None of these should really be breaking from a like a standpoint of like JavaScript, right? Like none of the functionality in the runtime really needs to change at all. But we, like, my understanding is there is, my goal here is definitely to break the TypeScript like definitions so that they are more correct and more useful.
Yeah, couple points on that. So what's definitely goal is to start doing, I don't remember how it's called in English, dog fooding, so eating your own stuff. So when we migrate the tests to TypeScript and we start using our own definitions, one of the problem with TypeScript previously was that we don't use it internally. So we're dependent on people fixing DTS files, SPRs. So like we cannot detect. So this type of missing features and this type things is happening automatically when we switch tests to TypeScript. So we would try on the later stages, not the first stages. And first stages, if we like missing something, we will probably put ignore, TS ignore. But on the later stages, before release, definitely before release, we will try to address all these workarounds because they become visible in our tests. So like if type inference is working incorrectly, we will try to fix it. If it's not working, it's a little bit different issue. We need to figure out how to do that. And so like basically idea for this release is to, and we can actually write it in goals, to get TypeScript to the same level, TypeScript definition to the same level as flow definitions previously.
I think that we can get TypeScript to a far superior level of usability compared to Flow.
Yeah, idea is to keep this release scope of this release fixed. So a goal is not to lose anything from transition. We can, the thing that I discussed like previously is kind of having two type of wines, active wines and parallel, like Node.js have active one and not active one. So meaning like we switch main to be kind of unstable and have a stable line. So when we release 16.0.0, we wait a little bit for everybody to migrate and start using that. But after that, we can switch like main to be unstable.
Totally.
And yeah, maintain stable line. And I think like
so I think we're constrained by the release, by the difficulty of major releases in general, right? So if we are to do this TypeScript conversion and get it only to a stage that is as good as the current flows types, we miss out on the opportunity to make it better than the current flows types. And there are serious opportunities to make it better. And if we do that and just publish them as good as the flow types in our 16 release, we have to wait until we have to perform another major release to get them better, because they would kind of by definition break TypeScript integrations because the types would change. They might not break any runtime, anything, right? It might not even change the outputted JavaScript in any way, but the types themselves would definitely break. And so is that something you would want to do two different major releases on, or?
Yes. So clarification of that, if everything goes as planned, so idea is to have 16.0.0 in like weeks, ideally 1 month scope. In that case, we can, so like general idea and what we tried and previously is to match new releases with Node.js drop-in support for older version of Node.
Yeah.
Because it's maintenance headache and you need to do break and change anyway, because all dev dependency and other dependencies stop supporting, so you cannot test on old Node.js version. So I feel like we will need, I think it's in January or February, Node.js doing like dropping Node 8 or Node 10. I think like it's dropped in. So we can do next breaking release there. Like one thing I'm worried about is that features we need to experiment with. So like TypeScript typings are used by libraries with very extensive TypeScript users themselves, like Nexus, and so I'm worried GraphQL.js, like for example, has some non-trivial usages. As an example, we added this file and Dotan from Guild contributed it. So it's utils, I think it's called typed query document node.ts, and we added this experiment, and another person found a way how to improve it and fix some issues with it. and because we didn't release it yet, so we merged improvement. Also, guys from Guild helped to finalize this improvement. So I think like improving types is similar type situation. And if we improving it, we need to experiment to be able to experiment and getting feedback.
Yeah.
If we scope.
I see what you mean here about like trying to iterate on the types independently. I think that the real challenge there comes in with that instead of iterating on a d.ts file, right, we would be iterating in ways that actually that are actually used within the code base itself, right? So it'd be it's much more difficult once we have everything converted into TypeScript to make changes to internal types without changing them everywhere else in the source code that references them.
I think that
and I can add that, for example, if we want to check if this type document node thing if it works, or even like if the GraphQL.js even on like super extensive usage works with TypeScript. We have, I don't know, like 6 pretty large code bases fully typed with TypeScript with some, with some pretty complex subtypes, etc. And also with the codegen, and even with the codegen, we can ask people to test it. So if we have, let's say, a GraphQL.js at release with a, let's say, a canary release or like RC0, whatever,
Yes.
we can check, or even like I don't know, like an artifact on GitHub or like whatever, just the source. We can make sure, we can ask a bunch of people and we can test it on our project and see if it works, because we use the TypeScript pretty much everywhere. So yeah.
So we have some TypeScript tests right now. So, one thing, just to clarify what we're discussing right now, if we're on the same page, maybe I'm also like misunderstand the scope. So going as good as flow is necessary step. It's not going anywhere. We definitely want to improve TypeScript typings. So it's like some things we didn't, some template arguments we didn't add just because it's flow limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Because in flow, if you add even one template argument, you need to add empty angle brackets, even if it's optional, which is pretty weird.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so that's why we didn't add like template arguments to scalars or to anything else. It's blocked it. And second issue was if we cannot add it in flow, it's hard to keep in sync DTS and flow files.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since TypeScript represent majority of people who use GraphQL types as like TypeScript types, not as flow types.
Yeah.
And we don't have any way to test it. That's why idea was to keep it async as much as possible. That's why we didn't introduce new things. So I would separate it in 3 stages. Stage 1 is just to migrate files. Stage 2 is that since we migrated test files and added a bunch of tsignore, figure out a way how to address it, to clean up our own tests. And I think like our own tests represent a really good test scenarios. And it's with two things is definitely going into 16.0.0 because for solving some of these issues, we need to introduce breaking changes. And yeah, as you said, but all this thing is done without any more or less any external communication. When we feel like we're ready, we ping everybody, people quickly test it. Ideally, we don't break anybody, or if we break, it's like pretty minor.
Yeah, we definitely want to get a release candidate, and then like pull the community and try to get at
Yeah.
least major libraries upgrading in their own release candidates.
Yeah. So it's so yeah. And the question is, should we at this point try to improve TypeScript typing, or we cut a release and do and plan type improvement for next version, and actually it's after some time actually switch master to next version and release like alpha version and start working with TypeScript things with a goal to do it in winter when Node.js drop new version. I feel like, yeah.
And just to throw out there, end of April is the deprecation of V10.
End of, yeah, okay, end of April. Yeah, so we can question here is like we try to do this conversion faster and postpone. So like we start working right now, but postpone final release to April, or we prolong this release for longer time. And one thing I've worried about is that like people need to merge for GraphQL spec process. PRs need to be merged and released, and I don't. For that way, I don't want to prolong this release and have something that we can like that people can create new PRs against in TypeScript. So we don't need to rebase this feature or like do some other things. So idea is to limit the scope of TypeScript conversion. But I agree with you. It's just that I'm worried with improving typing. It's an iterative process. So we change something, we need to get feedback from people and from major libraries like Nexus and GraphQL Compose and like some other. We can break them, and they can figure out a ways to improve it. So I prefer that we have this iterative process for like a couple of months to know that we have really good TypeScript typings.
Yeah, cool. I'll create an issue to coordinate too, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like we're like slowly moving project. Since like right now we form a group and people actually volunteering to do stuff, and we switch into TypeScript that should improve contribution.
Yes.
And I will work on the processes as a main issue. We will have like more help from people to do that stuff, and we show them. Plus, we will like, for example, some people. Why I added Deno here is because some people did like manual conversion from Flow to TypeScript for this file to be usable in Deno. And I feel like we can capture, we can use this effort in improving GraphQL for entire JavaScript ecosystem, not for like people doing their own manual conversions to Deno. So I feel like if we release 16.0.0 and have Deno support and code is converted TypeScript, like people give more feedback and more ideas, and will be more willing to help us to improve TypeScript typings.
Cool. In terms of mechanics for this, I know that there are there already exist some the types pull requests for TypeScript converted tests. Is that the basis that we're going to start with, or are those probably like are those going to need to be redone, or are those kind of good the way they are? Might get merged into main once we do the branch conversions.
Yes. So, um, say
Sahaj.
hit. Yeah,
Yeah,
say hit. Yeah.
there's a draft
Volunteer.
PRN.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Can you send it in the chat so
Oh yeah.
everybody, yeah, link to it. So Sahid work on Gatsby conversion, but since now Guild helping with that, he volunteered to help with TypeScript conversion, and we try this approach of iterative changes. So idea is here that if you look into commits, so it's have this idea of converting everything. So it's like every commit changing something in
Yes.
whole files. So like for me, my challenge was reviewing stuff.
Mhm.
Because when you do something inside IDE, you convert some type flow to TypeScript, you do it iteratively, and you kind of ensure everything is correct. But like for me to go through bunch of monotonous changes, as it's really like killing my brain. But at the same time, I don't we have like really good code quality on GraphQL.js,
Mhm.
and I don't want to lower it. So approach that Sahid volunteered to try is to uh, create with commits that do one thing across the whole repo. And for now it's working good. And as added bonus, it's easier to rebase,
Mhm.
because when you're rebasing the stuff, you basically understand what's happening. It's not like the whole thing is changed. That's why per file approach is problematic, because files have interdependency between each other, and
Yeah, definitely.
we cannot rely on existing DTS files, because existing DTS files are incomplete and they work with old versions. So idea is not to lose any information from that we already have in flow. And some PRs can be backported um, into flow definitions to simplify this transition. So idea, for example, like TypeScript don't like when you add return type to constructors, and in flow it's possible, and for some reason we add them, but we can remove without losing anything in flow, and it will make PR for migration smaller. So idea is to do stuff like that, or like, for example, to include some TypeScript files from integration tests. We can backport such changes to master.
Saeed, this is really good. I didn't see this. This just came up yesterday, right?
Yeah, I think like we worked with Sahid for like a week, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, like, can you share feedback on how it was, and is it like how like uh, hard it is? Like, is it? Do you think it's like good approach on, or we need to try something else?
I, I think it's like better way to do this because like at times when I'm like I can just do mostly like command F and command replace for most of them. Like those were the easiest ones. And after that, like I went like off tangent at times because I was trying to fix something else, like semantic issues instead of syntax issues. But then we came back on fixing syntax issues first. And like this way works better, and like I'm like more productive doing it this way, like having everything in is one chunk. And like then I learned tricks from Ivan, like how to do git rebase, like edit the whole thing. And like I can revert to my commits back. Like it's actually like it's actually fun doing this way than like going each and every file and doing that, because there are like more than 250 files I think, and like doing each and every single file is going to be painful. And
Yeah.
right now, like if I make a sequence like iterative change, like I can see the type definitions coming up like in a good way.
This is cool.
And for me, it's most important thing is that it's easy to review. So we rename first, an intention is to uh, not to squash with commits, but rebase them and merge them. So we can, when you go through a blame, you can understand why certain thing is changed. It's not like one giant commit that change everything, and it's hard to follow. That's why first commit is actually renaming JS to TS. So we don't, we think if we change too much stuff inside a file, Git doesn't recognize it as a move. It's recognize you as delete file and edit the new one.
Yeah.
So we don't want to lose the blame and history in the file. So that's why
Totally.
first commit rename it. Yeah, and for me, like I can review a file and ensure that changes, because it's like, okay, you remove a plus and replace with the read only. It's like I
Yeah.
spent 30 seconds on reviewing that. And so basic idea is to continue doing that. And also I will create a couple tasks because like people want to help. And last time we agreed that uh, um, we need to use this. People have motivation to help. Like we need to use that, and it will help us to get new core contributors. Is to I will open issues. They fit with goals, um, but they can be done in parallel. For example, we have like really messy class called GraphQL error, which is like it's not a good first PR, or it's not a good first issue. It's like really complicated, messy stuff with defined properties. And but if somebody wants to attack it, because I don't want to migrate this thing into TypeScript, I want to migrate like properly written ES6 class, maybe with some hacks to for specific things to maintain stack traces and some, because in errors we need some like in this class we need some hacks. It's like essential complexity, but there is some accidental complexity. There is a bunch of them. So I will create issue for this separate task, and we can move benchmark to TypeScript in parallel without because I basically uh, move benchmark into separate folder and make it independent from SRC folder. So right now it's basically use package. So we build the package and run benchmark on top of package. So we can migrate benchmark even right now. It will just use DTS typings that we already have. So I will create issues like that. And somebody can start experimenting with DTS to flow conversion to see if it's like at least like converting our existing DTS typings, or it's like so things like that can be working parallel. I like this one thing that we cannot split with basic conversion between people, because file-based conversion is many people can work on it, but reviewing this would be a nightmare. So Mike, you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. So it sounds like you really have this this whole first step like well underway here. So I'm just gonna take a step back here and please let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you. Just like Yvonne was saying, I think there's like it's impractical to have two people in the syntactic conversion kind of thing. So I'll just keep out of the kitchen. But like some of the things that I am most interested in getting here are kind of, as you were saying, some of the more semantic changes and some of the logical changes to the types, which are like things that we can discuss and work on like after the syntactic like kind of stuff that you're already working on. I just pasted in the issue that kind of details. It's an old issue that I created like ages ago, but it's this is the piece that like I am highly motivated to do. I'm working with a lot of people who are really good JavaScript developers, but are relatively new to TypeScript and relatively new to GraphQL. And the flow of having to like define types and like both in GraphQL and in TypeScript in terms of like the like resolver types, or the fact that that all of the type checking that GraphQL.js does currently is in like a runtime kind of strategy is very, very difficult for these developers to figure out, like why does TypeScript not complain here, or why do I have to do these things? So what I'm really interested in is getting the linking of TypeScript and the actual GraphQL definitions like somehow tighter and like inferable. And so whatever I can do to that, like for that goal, whether it's just helping out with the TypeScript conversion in general or trying these things after the fact, I like, let me know where I can be useful and I'll try to get stuff in here.
Yeah, couple of things. First, you can review PR right now. Yeah. Because we both, me and Sahid, is not TypeScript experts. I used TypeScript on a couple of projects, but I never try to make really good definition. I use it just as like basic checks. So you can review stuff that Sahid create right now, and if you see some way how to improve like every commit, maybe we choose like not the right way to convert it, not a idiomatic way. By the way, Go, I forget to write it in Go list. It's not to convert to TypeScript, but to convert to idiomatic TypeScript.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we want to use like to write stuff how it's written in TypeScript. If it's not involve like huge changes, that's why having a breaking change is beneficial, because for example, error thing we want to rewrite into a class. So there is a couple issue like that that can be done in parallel to say Sahid effort, because it's only one file he converted to 156. If one of this file changed, we can kind of rebase all the things on top. Yeah. Another thing idea is if we hit really complex task. If it's like more than, I don't know, Sahid asked me and we spend like 10, 15 minutes brainstorming, we cannot figure it out, to just add TS ignore and move forward. So at some point, if you see TS ignore somewhere, and if we hit something, we'll ping you, and and like people who are interested in helping how to convert it properly. And when we convert syntax, most of the stuff and type checking is working. We like either create branch or merge into master depending on like other activities going on. And people can help solve these ignore things in parallel with effort is parallelized, especially if like issue is not is inside the function or inside the file. If it's not exported types, things can be totally separate, a separate PR and done by different people. So we can just have a list of stuff that we cannot convert or don't know how to convert.
Great.
So you can help by overseeing our current conversion effort.
Great.
Because,
I'll review the pull request as it exists currently, and I'll make sure to follow along. Subscribe to it.
Yeah, another thing, if you maintain some library or use some library at some point, right now we have a mechanism to releasing experimental releases, so we don't even need to wait for 15 for like switching masters or something. We can just like release experimental. Right now it's too early, so I think like we still have a lot of issues. But I think like in a week, we would have like some early version of conversion that people can test against. Yeah, I think it's and as I promised, I will. As I showed, I have some. I started today to write a roadmap. I will finish it. It's important to write a roadmap and start executing it because I already wrote a roadmap a year ago. And we stuck kind of in the middle with it. It's actually good that Sahid pinged me on what to do next and what to move, so it's stimulate to actually do something. And plus, I feel like it's good opportunity for people to collaborate, because if we design this migration process in a way that easy to review, it means like more people can be sure that the APR is merged and they're not stuck and they're doing something useful. Because for new features, new stuff, sometimes I don't know like what the proper solution is, or should we merge it, or some for a lot of changes it's need to go for working group. But for stuff like that, it's so I want also to use this opportunity to have more people, more maintainers into a project.
Yeah, great.
And
perfect. Yeah, I think that TypeScript is generally, as a more popular strategy, will probably help that a bit compared to Flow. So great. Awesome, team.
Anybody else have something to add on TypeScript conversion, or to goals, or to plans, or scope? I think like
question. I have a question. So the current PR we have, is there like, so are there more to do items we have left, or like?
Yeah, so yeah, it's actually like much of to do items. So like goes uh, there is like pure TypeScript conversion task,
Yeah.
and it's involved like for example, right now we need to make everything green, every check green on UPR. And at
Yeah.
some point, we need to enable back ESLint rules, and we need to fix TSD validation. So I think like we have clearly defined work for next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Uh, and as I said, I will report all stuff that can be done in parallel as separate issues, so people can help uh, on other stuff like converting GraphQL error into proper class.
Okay.
And after TypeScript conversion, we can attack two other problems, two other big problems. It's like ESM and to have native support in Node for ESM,
Oh yeah,
and
that's a
to
whole separate thing. There's only one person I know who's properly put in the effort to understand that at all, and you've probably worked with Jaden in the HTTP thing. I know he's a big fan of all that stuff. I can't stand all the workarounds you have to do for ESM, but he's a resource we can reach out to if we decide to try to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I want to have for like TypeScript conversion done, because I feel like ESM we can finish up like TypeScript conversion and like edit some stuff and clean up some stuff and work on ESM in parallel. But I'm not sure because migration to TypeScript involve bunch of like changes in build step. I don't feel like we can start ESM before that. So if we start ESM right now, we can make this some of this work useless with TypeScript conversion because we can switch from Bubble to TypeScript compiler, and we need to rewrite. Transformers or stuff like that. So I feel like that's why it's coming after TypeScript conversion. And the same Dino support is also dependent on TypeScript. And a small update on that, I exchanged some emails with maintainer of Dino registry, and they holding GraphQL names for us from squatting by other packages, because previously it was like somebody already released manual conversion of GraphQL.js there. So like after TypeScript conversion, we can attack ESM and Dino in parallel and finish last bits and pieces of TypeScript conversion, and maybe some improvements, small improvement to typing like template arguments. With all these things can be done in parallel after we migrate bunch of like most of this after we did big chunk of TypeScript migration. So like answering your question, it's like a lot of work for you to do like with syntax conversion, and there is a lot of work to do on other aspects, especially after like syntax conversion, when stuff can be parallelized and we can unfreeze. By the way, like if somebody wants to do some other kind of trivial breaking change that is not involved like design and experimentation phase, we can also add it into 1600 just after TypeScript conversion. So we frozen thing for TypeScript conversion, and if you like want to rename a function, like for example, for example, some person asked to rename dangerous change to something else because he don't think it's dangerous, like, or some other like renaming or fixing stuff changes. So if you want to push it, it can be done between finishing merging hit PR into master and releasing 1600. In that time frame we can accept like with kind of trivial breaking changes. Oh, cool.
Yeah, sounds good. So do we make like issues for this, or like how does, so we'll,
Yeah, so it's on my part. I need to
okay,
like. It's good thing that Mike volunteered to report some issues and maintain discussions there. I will try to give my input on all of them, but it's important that somebody like moderate discussion and to keep people on topic. And I will open like technical issues, like issue for converting GraphQL error into ES6 class, issue for converting benchmark into TypeScript. I will try to, I have a long list of stuff that I planned for GraphQL.js like years ago, and I will go through there and see what makes sense in this scope and what can be done in parallel and reported as an issue so people can work on it in parallel.
okay.
And yeah, so it's like basically my task until the next working group is to support you in migration, report issues for other people to volunteer and support them, and work on this action item from previous time to finish them, to have contribution guide and to have like actual step-by-step plan on what to do and how to collaborate on 1600 release.
Cool. That sounds great. I am going to just create those couple issues that I said, and I'm going to review the PR. Just looking at it, also, I noticed that there was a reference to some Slack conversations. Is there a Slack channel that is being used in
Yeah,
coordination?
I don't think, to be honest, I'm like, I cannot keep up with everything happening on Slack in different channels.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I react only if somebody tag me.
Yeah.
But we have this GraphQL.js channel on Foundation Slack.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, you can join it, and if you, the only thing, it's like it's open for public discussion, question and stuff. If you want some input from me or something related, you can tag me there and I will respond. Hi, Uri.
Hi, sorry, I'm just jumping in. I would have only 5 minutes, so don't mind me. Sorry.
Yeah. So we'll have video published on YouTube, so you can sync up. Sadly, I didn't finish a bunch of action items. I will try to release them, some of them this week, and I will tag you inside the issues. So, and by the way, big thank you for creating this GraphQL.js working group repo and action items. Yeah, there.
Great.
Yeah. So, anybody, like, two questions? Like, did we miss something in TS discussion that somebody want to say. By the way, I will publish this roadmap that I showed you, that I start working as the issue, and it will be open to commenting. So if you have some ideas how to do stuff differently and some technical proposals and stuff like that, we can do it asynchronously inside an issue. And yeah, and the second thing is there is like something urgent that people want to discuss before we finish this call. Oh, yeah. Thanks everybody. And like we're actually learning how to do it in an official way. It's like for me, it's a first working group that I manage. I like manage one or two calls on GraphQL over TTP, but other than that, I just participate in working groups. So I'm also learning and we're improving. Thanks to Uri, we now have a repo and agenda and a bunch of stuff. And next time I will try to finish more action items in timely manner, and we can continue from that and have iterative improvements and distribute work between us as a group. Yeah.
I'll just add that, like, I don't know if anyone took notes, but I can even though I wasn't in the meeting, I can volunteer and I can look at the video later and just fill in the notes later if it's still necessary.
Yeah, it would be great. By the way, I will create issue in this repo with like Zoom link, because GraphQL Foundation have automatic transcript enabled on Zoom recordings. So it would be easier for you because yeah, you can copy paste. Like Zoom is mostly good with recognizing common English. Yeah, so to help you. Yeah, I think it will be processed in a day, so I will pause there. Thanks for volunteering. Yeah, searchable notes is important. Yeah. On that note, if nobody have anything to add, let's finish it. Continue in asynchronous mode in communication in Slack and issues, and meet next month in last Wednesday of a month, and we I think we already have agenda in repo thanks to Uri. So if you have some agenda items, feel free to open a PR to add yourself and your agenda items to next call.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.